York City vote on finance. Please silence all electronic devices at this time. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Thank you, Sergeant. Good morning. Welcome to today's Finance Committee meeting. I'm Councilmember Justin Brannan, and I blame the R train for my lateness. I have the privilege of chairing the Committee on Finance. We've been joined this morning by Council members Sanchez, Hudson, Salam, Brewer, Farias, Powers, Carr, and do we have people on Zoom? Oh, Hanks, Hanks and Moya on Zoom. And Moya on Zoom. Today, the committee will be voting on 5 items: 4 property tax exemptions and a transparency resolution. The first 2 property tax exemption resolutions are an amendment and extension of an existing partial 40-year Article 5 for one building in Deputy Speaker Ayala's district. The amendment is to align the existing Article 5 with present terms for HPD's multifamily program term sheet, and the extension will continue the Article 5 for another 40-year period. As part of the exemption, all units will continue to be capped at 50% AMI, with 30% of the units now set aside for homeless tenants, along with completing identified capital work and improvements. The next resolution is for a partial 40-year Article 11 exemption for one building in Councilmember Salam's district. As part of the exemption, the building will enter into an HPD regulatory agreement restricting rents to 50% AMI, with 30% of the units set aside for formerly homeless tenants and requiring completion of immediate and short-term repairs. HPD light touch retention and stabilization services will also be provided on site as part of the agreement. The last resolution is for a new partial 40-year Article 11 exemption for one building, also in Councilmember Salam's district. As part of the exemption, the building will enter into an HPD regulatory agreement restricting rents to 50% AMI, with 30% of the units set aside for formerly homeless tenants. HPD light touch retention and stabilization services will also be provided on site as part of the agreement, and the building will complete identified immediate and short-term repairs. Finally, the transparency resolution sets forth a new designation and changes in the designation of certain organizations receiving local, aging, and youth discretionary funding and funding pursuant to certain initiatives in the budget. As with all transparency resolutions, council members will have to sign a disclosure form indicating whether or not a conflict exists with any of the groups on the attached list. If a council member has a potential conflict of interest with any of the organizations listed, they have the opportunity to disclose the conflict at the time of their vote. As a reminder, please disclose any conflicts you may have with proposed subcontractors used by organizations sponsored by discretionary funding. Disclosures must be made before the subcontractor can be approved. Disclosure forms must be completed and submitted prior to the vote on the transparency resolution and may be emailed to Everton Smith, who is also present in chambers today to answer your questions. Are there any comments or questions from my colleagues on these items? No. Okay, we've also been joined by Councilmember Stevens, and now I'm going to ask, and Councilmember Brooks Powers, and now I'm going to ask, and Councilmember Ayala, and now I'm going to ask Billy Martin to call the roll.
Good morning, William Martin, Committee Clerk. Roll call vote, Committee on Finance. All items are coupled. Chair Brannan.
Aye.
Moya.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Ayala.
Aye.
Powers.
Aye.
Lewis. Brooks Powers.
I vote aye.
Brewer.
Aye.
Farias.
I vote aye on all.
Hanks.
Aye.
Hudson. Thank you. Osei. Sanchez.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Williams. Juan. Salam.
I vote aye.
Carr.
I'd like to disclose on the record that the transparency resolution we're voting on today funds the Garibaldi Medici Museum, and I am a member of that organization, and I vote aye on all.
By a vote of 13 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and no abstentions, all items have been adopted by the committee.
Okay, With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.